guy standing in front of that door, he represents me or Ronnie or Yanel. And all I'm going to try to do is impart some information that I've gained after being behind that curtain, that door represents the music industry, and being behind that door for over 30 plus years. And being behind that door for 30 plus years, I've gained some things. I've earned some knowledge, some wisdom, and a book. The name of my book is called The 10 Commandments of the Stage, Make Them Remember You. And also, the purpose of my book is threefold. I want to teach young folk how to do that entertainment, how I just got through doing the entertaining, and some things I picked up along the way just for performing, some principles. Because I judged a few contests, and I had some talent searches, and I was looking for artists to put on my school tours. And I noticed that the talent that I was reviewing, most of it sucked. And then I started talking to the record labels, and I heard that they did away with artist development and all this A&R and all that other stuff. So I feel that these kids had the desire, but they didn't have the tools. So I put what I've learned over 30 years in this book about principles about performing and entertaining the stage. The second reason is I wanted to improve lives. I wanted to improve some lives. Because while I was writing this book, I realized that the same principles that it takes to be a good performer, a good artist, are the same principles it takes to be a good to be applied to any walk of life, anything in your life. Being professional, being on time, practicing, and giving more than 110%. All those same principles will work in life. And the final reason I wrote the book is to save lives, to save lives. See, nothing breaks my heart more than every time I hear a news story about an artist overdosing on drugs, and they going into that myth for some reason that the myth is you got to have outside substances to be creative. You got to have fun. You got to have drugs, and that is a myth. I want to share something with you real quick because this just kind of blew my mind. I'm gonna read some names off to you: Pop Smoke, Little Peep, Elvis, Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, Mac Miller, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, John Belushi, DMX. You can go on and on. Artists that have died from drugs or drug-induced reasons. Now I'm going to read another list out for you. Kim Kardashian, Robert Downey Jr., Tyra Banks, Jennifer Hudson, Jada Pinkett Smith, Tim McGraw, Jim Carrey, Eminem, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, Andre 3000, and Tyler the Creator. Those are all artists that don't drink or smoke, or sober, don't drink or smoke or touch anything. Now, you can't get an excuse that you needed to be creative because nobody's more creative than Tyler the Creator, if you ever seen his act. So, that's part of the book, to want to save some lives. Busting that myth. But I want to share a couple of the commandments from my book. The first commandment from my book happens to be the first commandment in the book. It goes, thou shalt practice, practice, practice. During the pandemic, when everything was shut down, didn't have any shows on the books, I had to get up and practice. I practice still. I've been doing it 30 years. I still practice every day that I can. And when I can't, I run my lines for my motivational speaking. I'm always practicing. Even watching television, I'm working on the guitar. Always practice, practice, practice. What does Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Mike Tyson all have in common? Practice-holics. Practice-holics. Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team because it hurt his heart, and he went and he started practicing, and Mike Tyson, 3 miles every day. He would run, he would work out 6 to 8 hours every day, practicing his craft for a 30-second fight, most of them. So you gotta practice, The second commandment of my book is thou shalt be professional. Professional. I always like to tell this to young artists, especially y'all young folk. Y'all listen up. The show starts in the parking lot. Actually, it starts way before the parking lot, but something you can wrap your head around. The show starts in the parking lot. Let me give you a little story. We go into schools. My company, Sounds of Knowledge, and we used to put new groups, new acts out into, we would pick these young bands and put them in the school. Well, usually they have 2 shows a day. They have one in the morning, one in the afternoon. This particular day, the guys had the morning off. So they decided to go to like a Denny's. They were in some little small town in Kentucky. They decided to go to a Denny's and get a little bite to eat before they go to the show afternoon. So they're in that Denny's. They're acting the fool. They're cussing. They're cracking on the waitress. They're doing it because they're in a little small town, little Kentucky. Who cares, right? So they finish, they eat their meal, they pay their tab, and then they head on off to the school. They parked in front of the school, and usually the band leader would get out and go and check in at the front desk. But when they pulled in front of the school, someone emerged from the front door of the school and started walking towards the van. And before they can get out, the guy came up to the van and said, "Hey, you guys, we won't be needing your service today." I said, hey, wait a minute. The guy said, the band leader said, "Hey, we rode over 200 miles to get here. And what's the problem?" He said, "Well, me and my wife are sitting in the booth behind you at the Denny's. We won't be needing your service today." And that was a real and true story. That's why I try to tell you young guys, you never know, even when you're at the show, and you're at a bar or any place, if you're at the bar acting fool or you're smoking weed in the parking lot, you never know who's looking at you. So the show starts in the parking lot. Be professional, be on time, treat your business like a business, and you'll be just fine. And the last and final commandment, thou shalt be original. Now, talking to a guy just put on a Michael Jackson wig, it's hard for you guys to believe this, but, but let me give you some advice, especially you young ones. One of my favorite books is Steal Like an Artist. Have you guys read that book? My favorite book. I want you guys to steal everything you can. The problem is, or bite, the problem is if you steal from one person, you become an impersonator. That's what Michael Jackson impersonators. But Michael Jackson, I was a Michael Jackson fanatic. But I also like, Michael Jackson is my foundation. But I also like Ray Charles. I like Sam Cooke. I like The Temptations. I like Prince. I like Fred Astaire, Jim Kelly, and who else? I can go on. Nancy Wilson, Tina Turner. I bite from all of them. And then I call it the Sir Rod Gumbo. And eventually I got a famous uncle in the blues. We're going to talk about him in a second. I even bite some of his stuff. And it becomes the Sir Rod Gumbo, and it becomes something brand new. I suggest the same thing to you. Bite as much as you can. Take your favorite pieces of whatever you like, YouTube, Rush, whoever, but add your own little stank on it, and you'll be original.